Heya Cryptozens. Tonight's show. SEC investigating Terraform Labs. Litecoin faces regulatory issues. Custodia Bank sues Federal Reserve. It's 10 p.m. Pacific time. The date is June 9th, 2022. Welcome back to the Crypto Overnighter. My name is Nicodemus. I'll be your host. The cover model, mascot, and co-host for this podcast is Tex. And together we take a nightly look at the crypto, NFT, and metaverse space and the industry that surrounds it. So take a minute, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast now, because we're here at 10 p.m. every night so that when you leave in the morning, you're taking with you the crypto news analysis that you need to start your day. And keep in mind, nothing in this show should ever be considered financial advice. I am surprised that it took them this long, to be honest. Now, I expect that Do Kwon and Terraform Labs, they're not having a really good time these days. And while they've got their hands full at home, Do Kwon and TFL, they also have quite a few issues abroad. Some here in the good old US of A. There are some folks here in the US government who have some questions for him, specifically the Securities Exchange Commission. And despite what some might think or want, this has nothing to do with the Black Swan event. In fact, this was going down way before Terra USD lost its peg and crashed, taking Luna to near statistical zero. No, actually, Do Kwon was already on the SEC's radar for another matter, that of the Mirror Protocol. Way back in the annals of time, it was recorded. A speaker at the Masari Mainnet Crypto Conference in New York had a problem. They had been issued with a subpoena by a representative from the SEC. Now, briefly, crypto Twitter was abuzz with rumors. Who was it? What happened? Is someone going to jail? Well, it was soon confirmed. Do Kwon was the recipient of that subpoena. As it happened, there was a lawsuit filed over the handling of this subpoena. Terraform Labs and Do Kwon were unimpressed. So, they filed suit against the SEC over the subpoenas. Their lawsuit claims that they were, quote, improperly issued and served. They also take issue with the marked lack of privacy during the service. The lawsuit reads, quote, the subpoenas were served on Mr. Kwon in public. Mr. Kwon was approached by the process server as he exited an escalator at the mainnet summit while on his way to make a scheduled presentation that was not about the Mirror Protocol. In a move that will surprise precisely no one at this point, it appears that Kwon lied, or at the very least he misspoke, because he reportedly told the Defiant.io that it wasn't him. So, Kwon lost that one. And despite the manner and place of the subpoena's service, despite the lack of privacy, he has to hand over the documents. These are presumably documents that will assist the SEC in investigating the Mirror Protocol. They're also going to be required to provide testimony to the SEC as well. Now, Kwon has pushed back against the charges. He said Terraform Labs just doesn't have a strong enough presence in the U.S. markets. He also argues that the subpoena should have been delivered to Terraform's lab counsel, not him personally. So, they upheld the ruling. The U.S. Court of Appeals' Second Court said the SEC was justified. They said the SEC subpoena was justified based on their, quote, marketing and promotion to U.S. consumers, retention of U.S.-based employees, contracts with U.S.-based entities, and business trips to the U.S., all of which related to the Mirror Protocol and digital assets at issue in the SEC's investigation. Yeah, and that bit about delivering the subpoena to him personally, well, apparently there's a reason for that. The court dismissed the argument that it was improper, and the reason why they dismissed it? There is a history of a lack of compliance with electronically issued subpoenas from the SEC. Apparently, they were not getting the attention that they were due. Ultimately, it seems like the business arrangements with companies in the U.S. aren't going to be their particular problem. The court said that the arrangements between Terraform Labs and the U.S. companies are what justified the investigation. One example cited was, quote, a $200,000 deal with one U.S.-based trading platform. Also, Terraform Labs themselves said that 15% of the users for Mirror are in the U.S. As far as Mirror goes, The Mirror protocol was launched in December of 2020, and the protocol creates synthetic versions of stocks. Conceptually, they're kind of like stablecoins, but unlike stablecoins, instead of being pegged to a currency or a commodity, these synthetic assets mirror the price of stocks. They're called M assets. So instead of buying shares in Apple, for example, you would buy M Apple. Now, when he pitched it, Quan said that they would, quote, create a way for retail investors worldwide to more easily participate in the U.S. equities market. Well, that's one of his growing mountain of problems. You see, if your audience is worldwide, that includes the U.S., and if American retail investors can use your platform, which they can, and if stocks are securities, which they are, you better get registered with the SEC before you have a problem, which apparently Terraform never did. They never registered those synthetic stocks, regardless of the fact that they are tradable investment contracts. Okay, let's look at the market. At the time of writing, the global crypto market cap is $1.24 trillion. It's down 0.55% on the day. The top 5 cryptos by market cap are Bitcoin down 0.76%, Ethereum down 0.58%, Tether, USDC, and Binance Coin down 0.04%. So Litecoin has been around for a while. It's one of the earliest altcoins. It was created in 2011. So, as we like to do here, let's take a look at the numbers. At the time of writing, according to coinmarketcap.com, Litecoin is ranked 21st in terms of market cap. It has a market cap of a little over $4.2 million. Fully diluted market cap of just over $5 million. It has a circulating supply of over 70 million tokens. Given the maximum supply, that means 84% of all of the tokens are in circulation, which is to be expected because this has been around for a while. As we recently reported, Mimblewimble is a Litecoin upgrade. It was put forward a couple of years ago as a part of the Litecoin Improvement Program. Back in November of 2019, they started planning enhancements to the anonymity of transactions between sender and receiver. And so it was that the proposal was approved and enacted. And to be clear, Mimblewimble isn't just about privacy. They also introduced something called a cut-through feature, which is important by itself. It's a way of cutting down needless transmission of data chatter. Now that said, privacy certainly was front and center throughout this upgrade, and that's the problem. So big of a problem, in fact, that Litecoin got delisted. All of the top exchanges in South Korea delisted them. Yesterday, June 8th, Upbit, BitThumb, CoinOne, Corbit, and GoPax all took steps. They delisted Litecoin. They did so claiming that Mimblewimble upgrade just puts Litecoin in violation of the provisions of the Act on the Reporting and Use of Specific Financial Transaction Information, which is the name of a law. And as I'm sure you have already surmised, this is all around the question of know your customer and anti-money laundering concerns. In their announcement, Upbit wrote, quote, the optional function that does not expose transaction information included in this network upgrade corresponds to an anonymous transmission technology under the Specific Financial Information Act. Upbit and BitThumb, they account for most of the trading activity in South Korea. Once those two exchanges decided they weren't ready to get found in violation of those particular laws, they delisted them. And the other exchanges, they quickly fell in line. You see, in 2020, South Korean regulators introduced some serious penalties, and they explicitly prohibited so-called dark coins, privacy-focused coins. Coins like Zcash and Monero and Dash, and now Litecoin. There already weren't very many privacy-focused coins being traded in South Korea for those very same reasons. In September of 2019, the South Korean wing of OKX removed Zcash, Monero, Dash, Horizons Zen, and Super Bitcoin from their exchange. They cited guidelines set forth by the Financial Action Task Force. So there weren't all that many being traded anyway. And I'm not at all surprised. Think about what the concerns of regulators are. Look at the concerns from the crypto's detractors' point of view. Criminals, drug dealers, kidnappers, hackers, terrorists, they say that those are the only people who care about using crypto. Now, I think most exchanges and crypto custodian type companies are going to be so compliance focused that they're going to seriously consider whether they can or should offer privacy coins. And I think that the politics of the moment, they're going to swing opinion very much against privacy. I think given that the danger that terrorists and traffickers and kidnappers present, I think citizens of most of the countries are going to have to give up some privacy. They'll try to force you to allow the government insight into your finances, which is pretty much how we have it now, if we're going to be honest. The global NFT market cap is up over $12.18 billion. Sales volume is up 16.03% in 24 hours. According to CoinMarketCap, the top 5 NFT collections by sales volume are Return of Legends 3, followed by Other Deed, Godly Legion, Bored Apes, and Goblin Town. Now keep in mind, some of these collections have very volatile prices, so do your own research. Custodia Bank, crypto-friendly, Wyoming-based, and now embroiled in a lawsuit with the U.S. Federal Reserve Board of Governors and the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. Their 44-page complaint, in part, documents their growing frustration. There's been a 19-month delay in their application for a master account, which you're going to find out is really excessive. The problem for the Federal Reserve is they only have a year. This 19-month delay, that violates their own statutory 1-year deadline, and they clearly know it. It shouldn't take anywhere near as long. I could see if they were a little over. There are no other crypto banks to use as a template. But the fact is that the Fed's paperwork says that a master account decision, quote, ordinarily takes 5 to 7 business days. This suit charges that the Federal Reserve, quote, clearly violated the 1-year statutory deadline for doing so. And this is a subject that's come up a couple of times on this show. Now, a master account is what makes a bank a bank. It allows direct access to services from the Federal Reserve System. Payments, things like overnight loans, stuff like that. Basically, it means that Custodia could custody their own fiat. That master account access will allow Custodia to be independent from other banks in their ability to store fiat currency. So, Custodia is asking a judge to speed things along. They're asking for an order forcing the Fed to respond to their application in 30 days or less. Now, the thing is, Custodia, they've already made up their mind. Their plan is if their application gets denied, they're going to court. They've said that they're going to file an appeal if it's denied, and here's why. They feel it's integral to their business model. They said, quote, such an account would allow Custodia to directly access the Federal Reserve rather than going through an intermediary bank. Now, Custodia, personally, I would consider to be fairly new. They've been around since 2020, which is an absolute age in the cryptoverse. Caitlin Long, Morgan Stanley vet, she founded Avanti Bank in 2020, and that's what it was called back then. And it was in June of 2020 that they closed a $5 million angel round. In October of that same year, they filed for a master account. And by March of next year, they had raised $37 million in a Series A funding round. So, Long also works with Kraken. Kraken is one of the U.S.'s oldest crypto exchanges. Kraken is also trying to get their own master account. Now, right now, Custodia at least has something. They don't have a master account, but they've got a special purpose depository institution charter, or SPDI. And using Custody Bank's charter, Kraken is able to settle crypto transactions in fiat. And that charter is kind of a sticking point in a way, because the Fed, at one point, they said that they were considering whether or not the Wyoming organizations with those charters, whether they qualify as banks or not, which seems irrelevant to me. Cynthia Lummis agrees. She is very pro-Bitcoin. She is a senator. She is from Wyoming, and she is supportive of Custodia Bank. Now, she has called the question of whether a Wyoming SPDI counts as a bank or not as, quote, not a serious legal question. As part of Custodia's criticism for the Fed's actions, they have called procedures, quote, standardless. They said the Fed's procedures allow it to, quote, act in complete secrecy whenever and however they choose. All that said, Custodia is getting closer. For one thing, they've been given a routing number. The American Bankers Association gave it to them, which is a huge milestone on the way to getting a master account. Routing numbers are used to identify banks. So there's that. They identify banks for checks and some electronic transmission purposes. This is a big deal because they're only issued to institutions that have federal or state charter, and they're only issued to institutions that are eligible to have a master account. And that's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's show, like, comment, and subscribe. Give us a review, because that helps other people find their way to this podcast. Do you have questions or comments? Reach out and let us know. The email address is nick@cryptoovernighter.com. That's nick@cryptoovernighter.com. Or come find us on YouTube. Leave me a comment and maybe I'll read it in the next episode. We'll see you tomorrow night.